Hey everybody, this is Josh Cook, aka Seizures Palace, and today we are at the quarter mark. We're at Song of Week number 13 out of 52. Not so bad. So what I wanted to do for this week was write a minimal techno track that didn't really end up staying a minimal techno track, but the drums kind of started with that in mind, and so I guess we'll start from there and work our way through it. Yes, the song's already done. This was a big one though. It would have been a very long tutorial video, so it's probably best just to do a little skim through it. Let's get through it. So, as you can see here, the drums are doing quite a bit. If we were to open it up, actually, you know what? I'm going to go over to the mixer first just to show you kind of what's going on there. So I have 3 different kicks if I was to solo them, and for now I'll just pick a little looped chunk. So I was going with a really sort of short kick, and then I was doing these little ghost notes. So that sort of idea. There's some other complementary ones. And then here's another one. And so that higher pitched kick is actually up a fifth from the original kick. So do 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 do. So it kind of has like a little bit of a sort of bass-line-ish thing going on in there. Just a little bit more than a single pitched bass drum. And then we have some claps and snares. Not a whole lot going on, a little bit of brilliance up top. If I was to kind of go through each of those, some of them have some saturation. There's quite a bit of focus towards scooping out everything below the fundamental of these different sounds. So you can see there's going to be a lot of filters on these, and because of that spectrum analyzers as well too, just to help me see what's going on. We also have a snare. It's just been shortened. Past that, not a whole lot going on. A little bit of EQ on that snare, and not a whole lot going on that. So I mean, in terms of the drums, I did a lot of sample searching, found samples that I thought were really complementary together, so I didn't have to do too much EQing, or especially things like compression as well too. So that was relatively simple. A bunch of those layered up with a little bit of EQ and filtering, and then another snare, and then some hi-hats all going into a group. And that group has a little bit of a boost up top, a little bit of glue compression, and that's about it. Not a whole lot going on there. So the full drum sound is... And so I spent like the first 10-15 minutes just kind of getting that sound going. And I should also mention too, with the kicks, I did do different processing on each of them. This looks like it probably was not meant to be there still. Let's double check that. It's a little extreme. Let's take it down. Definitely got a lot of knock, but I'm going to take that down a little bit. And then the next one here to be blended. Not a whole lot going on with that one, and this one too. So just the main kick was processed the most, and I think there was some overall processing. A little bit of sweeping out of really low frequencies. EQ, transient master. Yeah, nothing too intense. So again, lots of sample searching to make sure that I didn't really have to do anything too intense past that point. I just realized I'm working off my speakers, so I should probably switch over to headphones. All right, that's better. Okay, so we're on to the next thing now. Let's get over to So there's some more hi-hats, just like a little loop of offbeat sort of hi-hat pattern going on. This really cool effect that I found as one of the presets in FM8, and I played it 2 octaves lower than what would be probably like acceptable for a melody, and it just gave a really weird effect. It's already been flattened down into audio, but I'll show you how it sounds anyway. And there's actually quite a bit of sub-frequencies originally, like listen to this. You can see there's some stuff going on below 100 hertz here, so I wanted to make sure that I really had it managed. So at around 200 hertz, I swept everything off and I lowered the Q a little bit just to kind of give a gradual roll off. So that's going on in the background at times, and that's a kind of fun sound. There's a crash. There's this thing to pair with it. Just like a little gunshot thing, just something to give a little bit of low end to the crash. You can hear there's a huge delay on the crash and quite a bit of reverb. There's some vocals. There's 2 layered vocals. The second one is not auto-tuned. The top one is, just to give a bit more of a real feel. And this take didn't need too much auto-tuning, so it worked out well. There's a whole crap load of processing going on the vocals. So they've been tuned. There's a compressor for a de-esser. So I have this. This is a fun trick. If you guys don't know how to make your own de-esser, I'm still working on how to perfect it, but this is the basics. So if you listen to this, that's super harsh. It's basically just right around 6K isolated with some steep high pass and low pass filters on the edges, and then just a huge sort of cranked up parametric band. I think I also might in the future gate this so it's only really, because like right now if you listen, even when I'm not saying S's, there's still a lot of stuff passing through. So I would probably gate it so just the S's pass through. But come to think of it, I'll probably do that for the next time I go to DS something. For now, it worked enough, though. So the first compressor on the vocals is triggered by that signal there. So you'll see there's quite a bit of stuff going through. And then every once in a while when an S pops out, if you watch right here, boom, it pops up above and there's some gain reduction happening. Now that doesn't really take out the harshness of the S's. It does soften it, but you also want to do some EQing, and I found that around 6.8 there was quite a bit of harshness, so I just kind of rolled some of that off. Some presence in around 3K, and also a little bit of air up around 10K, and a bunch of little notches, some nasaliness around 800, some muddiness around 2 to 3, and then yeah, just probably like a ring happening up around 3K. Bit more boost going on with the solid EQ here by Native Instruments, so a little bit of a boost by 5 kilohertz, and then a bit of a shelf up top and some reduction of mud around 250 again. I threw on Camel Crusher because I think it's because I'm really self-conscious of my voice, and I really like the way Matthew Bellamy's voice sounds. So he adds often a little bit of distortion to his voice, and I find that on my voice it helps me accept my tone a little bit better. And then a little bit more after the Camel Crusher, a little bit more corrective EQing based on the distortion that was added. 2 compressors, one to make sure that there's some punch. So you can see the attack is pretty high up, around 30 milliseconds, with a pretty average ratio for vocals, around 4. A little bit of a higher ratio and a really quick attack with the 10 millisecond, look ahead, that should be turned on. And the knee actually, I'd play around with that, but I want it, if anything, really low or not at all. So yeah, this is just to help with dynamic overshoots. And then a little effect rack with a clean channel and a reverb channel. So the de-esser I'm also putting on the reverb because the reverb itself was bringing out a lot more. I wanted like a really airy, nice, high-pitched, tinsely sort of reverb, and that was bringing out more of the S's again. So a little bit more corrective stuff going on there. Some EQ on the reverb. Don't forget to EQ your reverbs. I should actually also quickly add a high pass filter at around 200 just to sweep out any crazy lows on that reverb. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this first compressor is actually compressing the reverb whenever I'm singing, so you just hear it lightly in the background, and then when I'm done singing, it opens up. We can actually hear how that sounds. Let's take a little loop here. Overexposure, just too strong to taste. Overexposure. If I really bring that down, listen. Overexposure, just too strong to taste. Overexposure, just too strong to taste. Right, so when I stop singing, the reverb comes up. It would be easier to hear if I had a longer loop point, so let me just move that over and you can hear that. To taste. Now, crank her right down. Strong to taste. To taste. Right, so you can hear the reverb. So that's the purpose of that compressor, and then this one over here is for de-essing. And a little bit more corrective EQ to help pair with the de-esser to really soften that 6K-ish area. And then a utility just to sort of bring up the volume a little bit. Sometimes I find that, you know, I could have done this another way, but sometimes I find that the reverb, even with the wet dry 100% all the way up, at least in Ableton, it's not quite loud enough to blend properly, so I'll throw a utility set to about 2 o'clock at the end of the line, and that way I'm not stuck cranking that up to 6 decibels with no more headroom to move. So there's still some wiggle room in around here, and I probably could have labeled these, so don't forget to do that as you go. Clean and verb. Quick little save skis. Let's move forward. These were just alternate takes. I did a bunch. I was just literally like this, no crazy screen, no crazy studio room or anything like that, just singing quietly to myself. I can show you the other parts. So the two together sound like this. Overexposure, just too strong to taste. So a bit of chorus and thickening, and then this is the part that I prefer anyway, which is the chorus. So I have this. Hypnotic, aquatica, blissfulness, hysteria. I've been having a hell of a time with EQing the chorus, and I'm still not quite perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but hey, when you're doing Song a Week, sometimes you just got to push the song out. It's getting close. There's just something about certain notes poking out a bit that the compressor wasn't really able to fix, and I currently don't have a dynamic EQ. I'm saving up for some isotope mastering stuff right now that has a great dynamic EQ, and I'll use that in the future. But I think that would have fixed my problem a lot better, or a really good customized de-esser. But for now, it's okay, and it blends with all this other stuff. So I have a lower octave here. Hypnotic, aquatica. Very bare, very naked sounding. And then this white noise vocoder. So the three together. Hypnotic, aquatica. In the song. Hypnotic, aquatica. Blissfulness, hysteria. You can hear that the S's are still a little bit harsh. Again, I think it comes down to the tools that you have and how you use those tools. So even the tools that I have right now could probably push me forward a step in terms of taming those S's, but I'm still working on that. I don't actually do too much vocal stuff on my own unless I'm like recording a band or something like that, in which case sometimes I'll outsource for de-essing and stuff. But anyway, it's relatively simple stuff, de-essing. It really helps if you have some good gear, and Waves has a really good de-esser, and Brainworks also does as well too. So if you're looking for one, check them out. I think the Brainworks one is the one that I'm going to go with. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's pretty easy to find online. We have a bass. So that was literally just like from a sample pack that I had, and I was like, all right, let's play around with that. It's pretty deep sounding, so it's just a D the whole time. There's no crazy like melody line or bass line happening or anything. It's just literally that low D happening, droning in the background, and then some what I call light bubble. Take down that reverb a little bit, and then this guy here. So those three, even though this bass high is not really bass at all, they just kind of work together, having, for example, the mid bass and the high bass, we'll call it, have a similar melody line, and they complement that low droning note that's happening. And then over here, this is the light bubble. This is actually probably just something that I copied and pasted and didn't rename. We could call it just bass instead of sub bass. Call this one sub. So there's one light bubble that's pretty low, and then the other one's a bit higher up. And that is, again, the classic side chaining of an auto filter to kind of get this wubbity dub sort of feeling, but not too dubstep at the end of the day. Just something kind of liquidy and bubble wrapped. And then this one, I believe, has an arpeggiator. This sound inspired the title of the track, Hypnotic Aquatica. If you just listen to it for a sec. It's very like underwater feeling. So for me, that was, it kind of set the tone of the song. It kind of helped bring some sort of idea into mind for the lyrics and that kind of stuff. So moving forward, here's another pad. Some strings. So this was done with Session Strings Pro, and I made my own little pattern here. I didn't really change anything past that. I think it's naturally set to staccato, so just made my own pattern that I thought complemented the rhythm of the song. And then later there's this. And that complements the vocals. Hypnotic Aquatica. Now, truth be told, I came up with the string part first and then got the inspiration for the vocals after. I just kind of came up with some lyrics that went to that melody. This guy doesn't come in too often. Light bubble, let's check it out. And this one. And they're panned pretty far left and right just to give a nice big wide feel, and they're happening in the background. Then there's this, kind of like some epic 80s brass, and that was just done with a massive preset. Now for the strings, I did quite a bit of boosting up around 8-9K and around 8-900 hertz. Actually, it was 650, we'll say. I swept everything out down in the lows. I didn't want the proximity factor to be too close. I didn't want the strings to feel like they were like a quartet right in front of me. I wanted it to feel like more of like an orchestra in the background. Yeah, and then there's some filtering that goes on later for this part. So some automation happening there. Also some automation on the volume done through a utility. And again, why you do that with a utility and not just on the mixer channel strip is in case you want to lower or raise all the volumes together. By having your automation done on utilities, you're able to do that really quick. All you have to do is click on the left from your channels, shift click the right, and then you can raise or lower them all together. So that's a fun little fact. I guess I could call this guy here brass. And then the light bubbles is just some basic EQ, a really big parametric band on that guy. Some sidechain compression. I probably could have sidechained more in this song to have more control, but I have a lot of parts, and truth be told, I'm starting school next week, and I've been prepping for that too. So lots of other lifey stuff getting in the way to make this session. Unfortunately, a little more dumbed down than I would have liked, but I'm pretty happy with the end result anyway. So let's go through and give it a listen and see if anything inspires me in terms of sharing some of this stuff with you. So here it is from the start. Wait a sec. Here we go. Notice the side chaining is turned off at this point, just regular organ being held. Here comes the first verse.
Tired, Leslie, drift into a haze. Overexposure, just too strong to taste. Overexposure, just too strong to taste. Close your eyes and hope to fade away. Memories frozen, wash the ice with rain.
Yeah, the S's are actually coming together pretty well for that part. And here's the chorus. So that's the idea. I did put the chorus vocals a little more in the background, and because of all the layers, it widened out a little bit. And that was kind of cool. The verse was a little bit more intimate and kind of up in your face. Again, that's like a classic trick in production, making sure that the verse is a little more personable, because that's where you really tell the story. And then the chorus is the idea of like everybody joining in on one theme or thematic idea. You can also hear during that held organ part how that creepy thing worked in. These three parts together. So if I got rid of one of them, and then got rid of the other one, you're just left with that creepiness. So definitely go through and check presets. And I mean, hey, don't get me wrong, definitely synthesize your own sounds and really experiment with that and come up with stuff that no one else is going to come up with. But I was going through presets and I found a sound that I lowered 2 octaves to the point where it wasn't even really musical. It was more atmospheric. Like I wouldn't want to create a melody with that sound. So yeah, try some extremes with the presets, or just kind of change them a couple knobs here and there and see if you can get some changes that you feel make that sound your own. So I really don't think there's too much more to cover past that. Again, I have a couple basses, so a sub bass, so I can control that separately, and then some upper basses. Again, this bass high I wouldn't even consider a bass, but it's complementing the same notes as the bass. Some low mid and mid content from these guys here. That sort of idea. Some arpeggiation for movement, some strings for breakdowns and to fill out the sound a little bit. And then these ones here, again, these happen more as part of a breakdown idea, and then the brass is just to kind of complement and kind of accent hits. So that's it for this week. That's song week number 13. Hopefully you guys picked up a couple tips and or tricks. One more time, my name is Josh Cook, aka Seizures Palace. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely, if you have a challenge that you want to throw my way in terms of a compositional challenge, throw it at me. We'll see what happens. I'm trying to tackle a bunch of different genres with this tutorial series. So yeah, keep in touch. And in the meantime, you stay glassy, sand.